Hello, friends. How's it going? Merrick Bennett here with Comics Workshop, day 2 of our comics camp for April vacation. We're coming to you from merrickbennett.com, and I want to start by thanking Children's Literacy Foundation for making these live draws possible and for including us in your conference plans and doing lots of comics workshop stuff this spring and this winter and spring. And also thanks to my patrons over on patreon.com. You can join over there to get all the artwork and stuff like that. Hey, Blood Moon. Hello. Good morning, everybody joining us. Just now we have paper, we have pencil. I have an eraser because I always make plenty of mistakes as I'm drawing and additions and edits and changes. So I also have a book of poems here. I've been reading some Rumi poems and I pulled out a verse I'm going to work with. You are welcome today to draw any kind of story you want, to work with the verse that I chose here, the lines from a poem I've chosen to start my comic. Or you can just draw your own story, whatever you want to draw today. But I have a format we're going to try. We're going to try what I'm calling two-panel adventure, which is kind of a corny way to say a two-panel comic, a story that happens between two different images. And we'll see how that works here. I'll show you how I set up the page. Got a magnolia blossom, rhododendron blossom. They're wilting fast here. All right, let's get drawing. So I have just a regular sheet of paper. You can use your page tall or wide as always. I'm going to use it wide so it fits on the screen here. I also wrote down my poem that I'm working from because I wanted to get it into my hand and see how the writing felt as I wrote it. So Rumi wrote this many years ago, translated by Coleman Barks. So here's my poem I'm going to draw from. Chickpea to cook. A chickpea leaps almost over the rim of the pot where it's being boiled. And here we have the voice of the chickpea. Why are you doing this to me? In that boiling pot. The cook knocks him down with a ladle. And here we have the cook's voice. Don't try to jump out. You think I'm torturing you? I'm giving you flavor. Yeah, it's actually, the cook is very loving in this poem. That's just the beginning of a poem. But I love it because it has two voices, two different characters, and there's some actions to it. Here's an action, leaps. I like to mark up my text. I have my toolbox of faces, actions, setting, and text, and I'm finding the cool parts that I want to include in my comic. The cook knocks the chickpea down. Now I have some ideas of what I'm going to draw here. All right. So setting up our page, I've got a page here. And as always, I'm going to draw that frame around the outside edge of the page. Whenever I'm drawing a comic that I might be using in a book or a mini comic or just to share with anybody, I always sort of rough out that frame. That's just our way of saying as cartoonists, we're saying, here, this page is now my space for creating a story. And I know where the edges are because the moment my artwork gets near that frame, I know that's getting off into the iffy territory. It might get cut off when it becomes a book or a page or anything like that. Doesn't that look like an official page now? Just having that frame around it. All right, now within that frame, actually, let's find a halfway point. So I want to divide this in half. I'm going to divide mine in half left and right. You can do top and bottom, or left and right. And if you're doing it tall, same applies, top and bottom, left and right. But let's keep it simple. I'll do two halves. So I'm just going to fold this paper in half to get a half line. Why not? That's no measuring involved. There's my half line. Flatten it out there. And now I'll just draw that half line down. And look at that. My page has just taken on the form of a comic because I can draw two parts. Oh, we have two parts. We have two characters in our poem part here in these lines from Rumi. So I could draw two parts, those two characters having a conversation, and we'll see what happens. As always, we're drawing out these. I'm working from poems. You can draw any kind of story you want, but I want to see what happens if we treat this page as two different pictures side by side at the same time, but read in a certain order. Because look at this. Let's mark up. I have a scrap piece of paper here. So if this is my page, remember yesterday we talked about bringing the reader from top to the middle to the bottom of the page and giving them a way to read down the page so they get all your text in order. Well, the same applies here. We're going to start at the top. We'll have a top part up here, and then we'll have a middle part here, and then a bottom part here, and the reader's going to read down in some way through all those parts. And then the same thing here in this next panel. So we've got to think about that as we go into these panels. All right, so I'm going to start with the chickpea because Rumi starts with the chickpea. Now let's see. The chickpea leaps almost over the rim of the pot where it's being boiled. Well, that sounds to me like my picture. That's the setting of this poem. So let's see if we can get a pot in here. Maybe a round top to that pot. I'm going to keep my artwork as simple as possible. So it's easy to read, easy to draw, and easy to read. Maybe not easy to draw. Sometimes simple pictures I really have to work at. Hopefully that looks like a pot. If it doesn't look like a pot yet, it will once we add some details. I'm always thinking, what do we need to make it what I want it to be? If you're joining us just now and you want to make comments, I'm open to comments and suggestions as I work to bring this poem into my 2-panel page. So let's see. So you can draw along with me, or you can be drawing your own story. Maybe your chickpea or your cooking pot has something different crawling out of it. Let's see. Maybe I can put this chickpea almost out of the pot. I'm going to put it right over the top of the pot, and I'm going to make it a little bigger than it probably would be in a regular pot because I want you to see it. Put a little face on it, but I don't have much room there to put any facial details. I'll keep it super simple. 2 little feet, maybe the little arms grabbing the sides. No, those look like ears. See, this is why I need lots of erasers when I pencil. Let's bring the arms up like this so it's holding on frantically. There, that's a little more like climbing up to the edge of a pool. Now let's see, what other details do we need here? I notice I just kind of out of habit, I put my chickpea in the middle of this panel. So it's kind of in the center. And up here, I have room for what it says. But it might change when I draw it. Let's see. I want to make sure we get some flames under here. I think this pot is on a fire. It's boiling. And the best way to show that it's boiling, I think, is to show that there's flames licking it. And then let's see. I'm going to bring that round top of the broth around there because we're looking down into the pot, right? Down into it so I can see the broth across the back, and I'm curving it around just like the top of the pot, but a little below it. Tracing that line, but a little below it, and then let's put some bubbles in, bubbles coming up. Now this could end up, I need those little tossing marks too, because otherwise this could end up looking like a pot of laundry with a stone in it or something. So maybe we add some other foods in here. Maybe some little chopped bits of stuff, all these little different shapes, and that is going to make it hopefully look a little more like a soup. And if I'm still concerned my reader might not know what it is, let's erase that line and make it look like the boil is coming up over the pot. If I'm still concerned my reader might not know what it is, I don't think many pots have soup written on them. That's one shortcut. That's kind of a heavy-handed shortcut. I don't think that's going to work too well. I could have the chickpea could say this soup is hot or something like that, and that would get that idea down right away. All right, so the chickpea leaps almost over the rim of the pot where it's being boiled. I think we covered that. I don't think we need to write those words. So this is, in a way, sort of economical. I don't have to use all of Rumi's words because hopefully we have it in the picture. Why are you doing this to me? So let's have our chickpea say that. I'm going to bring it up. I don't want it tucked in here. I want to bring it up into the space so my reader sees it. Maybe I'll center it. Why are you doing this to me? Well, that's what Rumi wrote. I can do the words and then do a bubble around it. But it seems to be missing something now because in the words here, Rumi mentions the pot being boiled. There's an action. Huh. And that action is what they're doing. But why are you doing this to me? It's not really clear what that action is to me here. It's whether it's being boiled or whether it's being rescued or what. I'm going to move those words. You know what, my friends, I think we have to give this chickpea an extra line to make a connection here. I'm going to move those words over. I think we do have to say, this soup is hot. Forgive me if that's too obvious. If the picture works, I can always take it out, but I'm going to tuck some words up there. Why are you doing this to me? I'm going to go with that. Try not to overthink it. I just feel like it needs a little more help making sure that we know what's going on here. Put a couple more bubbles, some smoke. Maybe there's like a soup ladle coming down. So we know that chickpea is talking to a cook here. Well, we're going to show the cook. Actually, let's go over here and we'll go into the second panel. And you know, if I drew the pot again, I could do the same thing in a ladle coming down into the pot and knocking the chickpea down. But I kind of want to go beyond that, because if I draw the same thing again, it becomes a story of something staying the same and not changing. We've already drawn the pot. The pot is there in that panel. Let's focus on the cook here. So the cook knocks him down with a ladle. Don't try to jump out. I want to show the cook and establish the cook. Maybe the cook, I won't even show the cook reaching into the pot and stirring. Let's put a cook in here. Don't try to jump out. This next line, I'm concerned about this. I don't want this to be a scary poem. I want this to be, it's really a poem about cooking with love for all the ingredients and for everybody involved. So here's my cook, whatever my cook ends up looking like. They're going to be right in the middle of this panel. Don't try to jump out. And then under it, do I want them to say, you think I'm torturing you, I'm giving you flavor? I think I'm going to skip the word torturing, because I don't want this to be a really scary cook. I want this to be, I'll have it be a more understanding cook. I know it's hot. I'm giving you flavor. I might change that. I know I'm playing with Rumi's text, but I'm trying to get at the sense of the poem, and I just don't want it to be too kind of threatening here with this big cook. You know what I'll do with the cook? Let's give the cook little arms. Let's make the cook, give the cook pointed ears, a little nose. The cook is enjoying this, and so can the chickpea. By the end of the poem, the chickpea is too. I think this cook needs, oh, look at that. I just noticed something. This cook can reach from one panel into the other. How about that? We'll try it. Sometimes you just go with these ideas. And is it one big picture? I still want it to be two different pictures. I want it to be like two different moments. So maybe what we need here is, I'm going to draw a line on either side of that dividing line. I'm going to put a little space between my panels. And then I'm going to erase the connecting lines. So instead of one big picture, it's two different pictures. I can take that ladle out there. It's two different pictures of the same place, the same moment, but they each get their own frame. I kind of like that. And the ladle reaches out to connect them. This is cool. I'm sort of learning a lot about what I think about this poem as we play with it. I got to put a chef's hat on this cat. Let's see here. Yes. Oh, Blood Moon already said, give him a hat to show he's a cook. Yes. Thank you. You were there, what, a couple minutes ago. I just haven't been watching the comments. I don't want my words to bump into that hat though. So how can I fix that? I guess I can make those words a little smaller. Don't try to jump out. I'll move it down a little, move that line away. I always want a little space between my words and the word bubble. See how messy this gets? Then I can put the chef's hat on top, that cloud with the sides. There we go. Maybe there's like pots and pans up here on shelves. Maybe there's like, oh, I know, in this hand, we've got like a box of spices, because that's what Rumi says next in the poem. A bunch of things, but I'm giving you flavor. Let's tip that box a little more. Tip that box down. So I'll put the box at an angle. I'll bring some lines back. I'll put the back on it. We practiced those cubes this winter in some live draws. I'll put the little holes in the top here and the spices coming out. Oh, I like this. We're adding cool details to Rumi's text here. I'll put a bowl to catch those spices. There we go. Oh, an apron. We need an apron. So there are the straps coming down and the top of the apron, and that's it, hopefully. Maybe a bow tie. Cats who wear bow ties always make good cooks. And there we go. We've got two different worlds of the story. Maybe I know it's hot. It's supposed to be hot. It has to be hot. See what I'm doing there? I'm writing the words after drawing the bubble, and I'm running out of space. So I got to draw the bubble after the words. Okay, and maybe sort of dark and dim. Maybe I'll leave it as light as, I'll decide when I'm inking, because the next step, I think this is about ready to ink. I might run it by somebody, ask them to read it back to me, and then I'm going to go in with my inking tools. So we're about at the end of the time here, so I'm going to stop there. I will ink this, and I will post it over on the Patreon with a couple more notes and a link to the poem. And any poems that you end up drawing, or stories, 2-panel stories that you end up drawing, I would love to see them. Remember today, we took a page, made 2 big panels there. And one way to think of this, I used to say we took an A idea and then a B idea and put them together. But you know, the way I really like to think of this is I went from A to C, and then there's a B in the middle, something that connects these two that wasn't there in the original poem. And for me here, it's the ladle reaching out that's visually connecting them, but also we found all these other actions, licking flames, spices. It feels like we're in a kitchen, and I feel like I'm turning to look at this chickpea, and then I turn to look at that chef, and I get these 2 views. So I like thinking of it as I draw 2 things, but we really see something bigger that comes from putting them together there. That's our 2-panel adventure. It's always an adventure because I never know how it's going to turn out when I start drawing something, whether it's a poem or a story or a book or a letter. Lovely to draw with you today. I would love to see your pages once you're done. Head on over to the Patreon if you want to see the finished artwork. And thank you to patrons and to Children's Literacy Foundation at cliffonline.org for making these live draws possible. We'll be back tomorrow with another. We'll see what that's going to be. It'll be a surprise, and we'll see what kind of flowers we have for that too. Good luck with your comics, everybody. See you tomorrow.